Do you ever feel like there's just one little thing that if you could get your team to understand it, some intangible, that it would take their whole game to another level? Today we're going to talk about the 3 flaws that are killing your team's success. Make sure you stick around for the third one, because if you don't have the third one, you're not going to win very many games, and it's going to be frustrating. There's a story called Hold the Rope, and it's a story of a coach that gave his players a piece of rope at the beginning of the year to hold on to. And the players were to hold on to this rope at all times. So they would put it on their keychains or carry it around with them all the time. And the coach noticed that the players were doing a really good job of carrying it around with them. And he's like, yeah, they're getting it, right? And so the whole story behind the hold the rope is you're supposed to imagine yourself hanging over a cliff and you're holding on to a rope. And there is one person on the other end of that rope that is holding on. Who would you choose to hold the end of the rope? Which teammate would you choose that would hold the end of the rope, that his hands would bleed for you, that his hands would burn for you, that he would not let go of that rope come hell or high water because he was your teammate and he was not going to let you fall. He was not going to let you fall to certain death. Well, the coach told the players, he's like, all right, look around the huddle. If you see 2 guys here that you would choose, that's still not enough. We need to get to a point where we can look around this huddle and you can see 8, 9, 10 guys that you would say, yeah, any one of these players, they're my brothers. Any one of them I would trust to hold the other end of that rope if I was dangling there. I would place my life in their hands. And so that might seem a bit extreme for sports, but when you have a team where you can look around the huddle and say, you know what, I trust every one of my teammates to the extent of holding a rope and me dangling over a cliff, and I know that they would do everything in their power. They would hold it till their hands bled to keep me alive. You know that team is going to have a lot of effort. And that leads me to the first flaw that a lot of teams have, and it's the intangible thing of giving effort. Guys just don't play every game like it's their last, and it's the responsibility of the coach to figure out what makes every player on that team click. And I know it's a lot of work to individualize coaching to that extent, to where you can, hey, you know the thing to say to this guy, you know the thing to say to this guy, you know what's going to get this guy going. It takes a lot of effort, but if you're going to be a good coach and you're going to have a successful team, then you need to put in that effort and to learn the things that make these players tick. When I was in college, coach told me one time, we were running sprints. We were in transition drill. And so we're running transition drill. And I was not used to communicating. Coming out of high school, I was not a talker. We didn't talk a lot. I mean, the coaches tried to get us to talk some, but I just didn't realize the importance of communication. And so coming back on defense and transition, a lot of times I would not communicate matchups. And coach noticed that in college. And he said to me one day, we were running transition drills and I'm messing up transition matchups. And he puts us all on the baseline. I can remember exactly where I was. Pretty much, I don't remember who was on either side of me, but I remember exactly what side of the court I was. We're on the baseline getting ready to run a sprint because I messed up the drill. And coach lays into me and he's like, you know what, kid, you're going to lose your scholarship because you do not communicate. And at that moment, something snapped inside of me and I communicated to him. I let him have it. And I was like, you know what? Because I felt like he was picking on me. Anyways, at that point, I communicated and it was like coach was just trying to see if there was fight in me. But I communicated to him how I felt in no unclear terms at that point. And I don't advise young players to do that, but you have to have fight in you. You have to stand up for yourself. But the point number 2 is you have to communicate. An ex-NBA player told me one time when he was coaching our team, when I was on a national team for Belize, and he said, you know what, a loud team is a good team, a quiet team is a bad team. And so you want your team to be loud. The louder the team is, the more you're communicating. It's not only good for your teammates, it gives you confidence because you have to know what to communicate. And if you know what you're communicating, then you obviously know what you're doing. And also the other element of communication is that it has the ability to intimidate the other team. If you communicate loudly on defense, and you can communicate, if you've scouted out the other team well enough that you can communicate what they're doing before they do it, it's intimidating to the other team. So communication is key to having a good team. So you want to communicate that to your team, to communicate loudly, confidently. And last but not least, probably one of the most important intangibles that you can have in sport is this one. One of the biggest compliments I ever got in basketball was one time I was sitting after a weightlifting session, and coach came into the gym. We're all sitting in this rec room in the gym, and he starts talking to the team, and we're talking about, what it's going to take for us to have a good year. We were in the preseason, and he says, in order for us to have a good season, I'm going to need at least 2 to 3 tough guys on the team. And he looks around the room, and I remember exactly sitting there on the floor with my back to the wall, and he looks at me and he's like, 1, 2, 3. He counted me in as one of the tough guys. That is probably one of the best compliments that I remember getting. It's not that I wasn't a good shooter. I was a great shooter. It wasn't that I didn't play hard. I played hard. But one of the biggest compliments I ever got was that I was tough. And that year we went on to have the best year that we had while I was in school. We went 22-7. We won 22 games, and we actually had a chance of going to the NIT, but we didn't. But that being said, toughness is extremely important to every team. Not every player is going to be tough. Not every team is going to be a tough team, but you need 2 to 3 guys on every team to be tough guys, so that the toughness from those guys can carry over. So as a coach, look for those players. They might not be the most skilled player. They might not produce the most on offense, but you want a guy that's going to get down and dirty. You want 2 or 3 of these guys that are going to get down and dirty, that are going to dive on the floor for every loose ball, that are not going to back down from any opponent, that they're going to be in there and be physical and be tough. So if you don't have toughness, you're not going to win very many games. You're not going to win very many games. You're just going to get pushed around, and teams are going to pick up on that really quickly, and you're gonna be frustrated as a coach. So as much as you can, you got to teach toughness. Run players through tough drills. You practice like you play, or you play like you practice. So make sure that practice is game-like. Make sure that practice is replicating games. Hold players accountable in practice. Hold them accountable in games. That's it for today, guys. So just to summarize really quickly, the 3 flaws that are killing your team's success are actually intangibles. The first one is lack of effort. The second one is lack of communication. And the third one is lack of toughness. If you can up the ante, if you can teach your teams these 3 things, I guarantee you that you will have way more success on the basketball court. Check out the link in the description. I have a free resource down there. It's a free video. The 3 biggest mistakes that youth/high school basketball coaches make that are detrimental to the team. And if you're guilty of number 3, you could ruin a kid's career. So check out that video down below. You don't want to miss that. It's absolutely free. I'll catch you in the next video. God bless you. Love y'all. Thank you for subscribing, liking, sharing the video. Peace. Make sure you stick around for the 3rd one, because if you don't have the 3rd one, you're not going to win very many games, and it's going to be frustrating.